the first chapter of a book isn't like anything spectacular. It's kind of like just introducing everything. So I didn't really know which one to pick, but I have decided to go with Stephen King, Misery. I've had this book for a while, and I've just never got around to reading it. I think I maybe read like a couple pages, and then I was like, yeah, I'm gonna buy it, and I just haven't picked it up since. This will be my first Stephen King book that I've read, and I filmed a video the other day, like kind of talking to you guys about my book collection and like tapping and scratching on all my books. And then I kind of remembered that I had this in my book drawer, so that video kind of made me realise, oh, I want to read that. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be reading a bit of today. I think for copyright reasons you're not allowed to read much of books, so I'm going to read the first chapter, and that's all I'm going to be doing. Stephen King, and it's this picture of a cabin with a man in the window. It's all very like snowy and in the middle of nowhere. It looks really creepy. This is a thrilling suspense book. Does it say the genres? It doesn't. Thrilling suspense novel from Stephen King. I thought it would be quite good for kind of Halloween time. I did want to read some like stuff that is online, just like some creepy ghost stories and things like that, but when I was reading through them, I don't know, maybe they seemed scarier and creepier when I was younger, but they didn't really, I don't know, I couldn't find any good ones, so I might just do this instead. So, let's just get into it. I'm excited. As always, I would really appreciate if you like and subscribe and comment if you are comfortable doing so. I love chatting to you guys in the comments, and I really appreciate whenever you guys interact with my content. It always helps me out so much. stalker vibes. Yeah, I thought it sounded really creepy. This like Annie character sounds really unhinged, and if he's in like this weird broken state, I'm really curious as to how that would pan out. But yeah, so let's get into reading. Part 1. Annie. When you look into the abyss also looks into you. This little quote at the start. Oh, well, I read chapter 1. This is chapter 1. It's actually just a bunch of noises. Yearn, vein. So basically, he's hearing noises. These sounds, even in the haze. And that's chapter 1. But sometimes the sounds, like the pain, faded, and then there was only the haze. He remembered darkness, solid darkness, had come before the haze. Did that mean he was making progress? Let there be light, even of the hazy variety. And light was good, and so on and so on. Had those sounds existed in the darkness? He didn't know the answers to any of these questions. Did it make sense to them? He didn't know the answer to that one either. The pain was somewhere below the sounds, the pain east of the sun and south of his ears. That was all he did know, for some length of time that seemed very long. And so it was, since the pain and the stormy haze were the only two things which existed. Those sounds were the only outer reality. He had no idea who he was or where he was, and cared to know neither. He wished he was dead, but through the pain-soaked haze that filled his mind like a summer storm cloud, he did not know he wished it. As time passed, he became aware that there were periods of non-pain, and that these had a cyclic quality. I think that's how you would say that word. And for the first time since emerging from the total blackness which had prolonged the haze, he had a thought which existed apart from whatever his current situation was. This thought was a broken off paling which had jutted from the sand at Revere Beach. His mother and father had taken him to Revere Beach often. Also, I'm just going to highlight that I'm probably mispronouncing a lot of words. I'm not used to reading it aloud, so it doesn't matter if I pronounce it wrong in my head when I'm reading a book, but yeah, don't bully me. His mother and father had taken him to Revere Beach often when he was a kid, and he'd always insisted that they spread their blanket where he could keep an eye on that paling, which looked to him like the single jutting fang of a buried monster. He liked to sit and watch the water come up until it covered the paling. Then, hours later, after the sandwiches and potato salad had been eaten, after the last few drops of Kool-Aid had been coaxed from his father's big thermos, just before his mother said it was time to pack up and start home, the top of the rotted paling would begin to show again. Just a peak and a flash began between the incoming waves at first, then more and more. By the time their trash was stashed in the big drum, with "Keep your beach clean" stenciled on the side, Polly's beach toys picked up. That's my name, Polly. I'm Polly. And tonight Mal put Johnson's baby oil on my sunburn, he thought, inside the thunderhead where he now lived. And the blanket folded again. The paling had almost wholly reappeared. Its blackish slime smoothed sides surrounded by smelled his warder for the first time, smelled her on the outrush of the breath that she had forced into him, the way a man might force a part of himself into an unwilling woman. A dreadful mixed stench of vanilla cookies and chocolate ice cream, and chicken gravy and peanut butter fudge. He heard a voice screaming, "Breathe, goddammit, breathe, Paul." The lips clamped down again. The breath blew down his throat again, blew down it like the dank suck of wind which follows a fast subway train, pulling sheets of newspaper and candy wrappers after it, and the lips were withdrawn. He had thought, for Christ's sake, don't let any of it through your nose, but he couldn't help it. And oh, that stink, that stink, that stink. Breathe, goddamn you. I don't think I'm allowed to swear on here, but breathe, goddamn you. The unseen voice shrieked, and he thought, I will. Anything, please, just don't do that anymore. Don't infect me anymore. And he tried, but before he could really get started, her lips were clamped over his again. Lips as dry and dead as strips of salted leather. When she took her lips away, this time he did not let her breathe. When she took her lips away this time, he did not let her breathe out, but pushed it out. Ah, breath. When she took her lips away this time, he did not let her breath out, but pushed it out, and whooped it in a gigantic breath of his own, shoved it out, waited for his unseen chest to go up and up again on its own, as it had been doing his whole life without any help from him. When it didn't, he gave another gigantic whooping gasp, and then he was breathing again on his own, and doing it as fast as he could to flush the smell and taste of her out of him. Normal air had never tasted so fine. He began to fade back into the haze again, but before the dimming world was gone entirely, he heard the woman's voice mutter, "Phew, that was a close one." Not close enough, he thought, and fell asleep. He dreamed of the paling, so real he felt he could almost reach out and slide his palm over its green-black fissured curve. When he came back to his former state of semi-consciousness, he was able to make the connection between the paling and his current situation. It seemed to float into his hand. The pain wasn't tidal. That was the lesson of the dream, which was really a memory. The pain only appeared to come and go. The pain was like the paling, sometimes covered and sometimes visible, but always there. When the pain wasn't harrying him through the deep stone greyness of his cloud, he was dumbly grateful, but he was no longer filled. It was still there, waiting to return. And there was not just one paling, but two. The pain was the palings, and part of him knew for a long time before. Most of his mind had knowledge of him knowing that he I'm currently reading Fourth Wing. Started reading it last night immediately after I finished another book. So hopefully I will likely have finished that by the end of October, because I'm going to do an October reads. I actually don't know when this video will be going up, so maybe I've already done it. But this book is definitely on my list. I'm desperate to read it. It's so good. I have so many good books. I have Fourth Wing, I have Electra, I have Atlas 6, I have the fifth Akatar book. I've got so many good ones that I'm desperate to read, and not enough time to read them. So I'm gonna read, I think there's a prologue in this book that I'm gonna read. I think I'll read the blurb for this one as well. So this is by Jennifer Saint, and it's a Greek myth retelling from 3 different female point of views. So I'm gonna read the blurb. Behind all gods and heroes, there are great women. The house of Atreus is cursed, a bloodline tainted by a cycle of violence. This is the story of 3 women, their fates doomed by the fickle nature of men and gods. Clytemnestra, when her sister Helen runs away with a Trojan prince, her husband Agamemnon raises an army against Troy and determines to win, whatever the cost. Cassandra, princess of Troy and cursed to see the future, but never to be believed, she is powerless in her knowledge that the city will fall. Electra, the youngest daughter of Clytemnestra and Agamemnon. Electra is horrified by the bloodletting of her kin. But can she escape the curse? Or is her own destiny also bound by violence? Sounds so good. Okay, I'm gonna read the prologue. It's only like 4 pages long. Okay. Prologue. Electra. My Sini is silent, but I can't sleep tonight. Down the corridor, I know that my brother will have kicked away his blankets. Every morning when I go in to rouse him, he has them in a wild tangle about his legs, as though he has been running a race in his sleep. Maybe he runs after our father, the man he has never met. When I was born, it was our father who named me. He named me for the sun, fiery and incandescent. He told me that when I was a little girl, that I was the light of our family. Your aunt's beauty is famed, but you're far more radiant than her already. You'll bring more glory to the house of Atreus, my daughter. And then he'd kiss me on the forehead before he set me down. I didn't mind the tickle of his beard. I believed what he said. Now I don't care about the lack of suitors clamouring in her throne room for me. I've heard the stories about my Aunt Helen and have never felt envy. Look at where her beauty led her, all the way to a foreign city that has held her men for 10 years. as years after years passes. I know that some people will say he never loved his children, that he couldn't have done given what he did, but I remember the feeling of his arms around me and the steady beat of his heart against my ear, and I know there will never be a safer place in the world for me than that. I've always wanted to grow up to be the woman he thought I would become, the woman I could have been, if only he had been able to stay, to live up to the name he gave me. More than anything else, I want to make him proud. Somewhere in this palace, I have no doubt that my mother will be wandering, staring out into the distant dark. She's always noiseless, her soft feet cushioned in delicate sandals, her hair bound back with crimson ribbons, scented with crushed petals and perfumed oils, her polished skin gleaming in the moonlight. I won't leave my chamber and risk encountering her. Instead, I rise and walk towards the narrow window cut into the stone. I expect to see nothing, but when I rest my elbows on the sill and lean out, nothing except perhaps a smattering of stars. But as I watch,